Yes, my name is Anna Clark, as I said. I'm the Strategic Director with IACD, and I'm based in Northern Ireland. For the benefit of anybody who's here, who I haven't really had the opportunity to introduce myself to previously. And my background is community development, going back over the best part of 30 years. Here in Northern Ireland, I work on an all Ireland basis as well, with an organisation called the All Ireland Endorsement Body for Community Work Education and Training. So I have two jobs, one with IACD and one with AIEB. And I'm also involved within my local community with my local women's group as well. And Prior to being here in Northern Ireland, I lived and worked in England. So, as I said, um, too many years of being involved in this work than I actually want to admit, but there you go. As Daniel said, we do have two other IACD trustees with us here today, and I know some of you will know them, but maybe not everybody knows everybody. So we will do a round of introductions, but could I maybe ask Shirley first? Would you just introduce yourself, and then Sonia, if you would do the same?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'm Shirley. I also start to use my English name, Shirley, since I joined the university because in local community actually we called each other our Chinese name. But after teaching in the university, I have to use an English name for easier identification. So I started to be a community worker from mid 1980s. So it was a long, long time ago, more than 4 decades. And then I have been working in the field of in the areas of substandard housing, transitional housing, and then I joined a big organization in Hong Kong to work with large communities in community center setting. So for 20 years, I think more than 10 years or more than 15 years, I was working actually I've been changing my location of work in different communities in Hong Kong. So for about 20 years, I was working in disadvantaged communities in Hong Kong. And because I'm particularly interested in gender, so I've been working very enthusiastically for many years with those women who are deprived and who are disadvantaged. And even now, I'm still working with the sexual violence victims in the community. And in 2006, I think, I joined the Hong Kong Baptist University to become an academic. And I'm still very much interested in competing to community development through the years. And even though I'm now practicing a little bit different approaches, the spirit of community development, the values of community development is actually infused into all kinds of work that I have been engaged with. So I'm very happy to be a long-term member of IACD. Actually, KK and I joined IACD 20 years or more than, at least more than 10 years. And then I became the trustee after KK stepped down. So I'm very happy with the ICT community to be together to share same missions and same commitment. And I hope I will continue to be part of the IACD, no matter what positions or as member or whatever. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Shirley. And yes, there's no getting away from IACD, as KK will agree. So, Sonia, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Thanks, Anna. Thanks, Shirley. And hi. So my journey with ICD began very, very long ago before I even became a member because my mom used to be one of the trustees at IACD. So I was fortunate to be able to host the practice exchange programs that came into India. So I met a lot of you in India first, and then as I went along, so I come with a background of computer science, but then I integrated it with community development because we realized that there's no life without technology, and the social sector needed somebody with, you know, this kind of expertise to strengthen the work on the ground. So that's how I came into community development. And while all this happened, it was the IACD conference in 2019, and I submitted an abstract. But why I'm telling you this story is that's what I tell everybody, that you don't realize till you're there that IACD is such a big platform, right? Wherein we are not only able to share our experience but co-learn from each other. So I was like mentored by many of the IACD board members, like and they've become like family because Stuart was here 2 weeks ago for my daughter's wedding, right? So that's how my IACD journey went, and then of course I became a trustee, and we were really hoping to host you back in India this year, but due to the political conditions, we have postponed it. But yeah, so I'm so glad this online meeting is happening where at least we'll get an opportunity to talk. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sonia. And yes, we absolutely do want to be coming back to India, or for me anyway, the first time as an organisation coming back. But for me personally, it will be my first time. But I'm looking forward very much to us being able to progress that initiative. Okay, so we'll just hear from everybody else then round the room. KK.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm usually friends call me KK, and I have been a member of IACD. I guess it's more than 10 years. And before Shelley joined as trustees, I was at the time we call it the board member. I was the former board member of East Asia, and at the moment I've been teaching at the Hong Kong Baptist University. Uh, Community work, social policies, and also doing some research and service for the community as well. Uh, in the meantime, still struggling with marking papers because they're the end of the term. But it's so nice, I couldn't resist, the temptation of joining this occasion, to meet friends, and and also those who are interested and committed to community development as well. Yeah, nice to meet you all.
Thank you, KK. And we do have quite a strong Hong Kong Baptist University contingent with us this morning.
Yeah.
So we'll hear from you, Chung and Chris, in a second. But I'm really interested to hear from Geeta and from Sammy as well. So Geeta, are you able to come off your? Oh, brilliant! Hello, good morning or good
Good,
afternoon.
good afternoon. So
Good
I'm
afternoon.
Geeta and I'm from Pune. I'm a guest of Sonia Garcha. I work with an independent think tank called the Pune International Center. Just out of curiosity, I thought I should join this meeting and see what work IACD does. Of course, I have my friend Sonia who definitely speaks about it. So I'm here for that.
That's wonderful. Thank
I
you.
hope you don't mind me joining.
Not at all. You're very
No,
welcome.
no, Geeta, we really wanted you to
Welcome.
join. That's why I sent
Welcome.
you a message in the morning, because then this is also a part of a network, and I was thinking we can look at how PIC and ICD can collaborate.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for joining. Yeah.
Wonderful. So, yeah, thank you very much for joining. And Yu Chung, let's hear from you then. Good to see you as always.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. And Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Chen or Yu Chen. Just for if easy for you to remember my name is okay. Yu Chen or Chen is both perfect. And actually I have involved in the community development field in Hong Kong for 15 years. After my graduations from Hong Kong Baptist University as a social worker, I worked in the frontline service as a community social worker for remote neighborhoods, public housing estate, something like that. And then I back to Hong Kong Baptist University and have my PhD studies, and now I'm working as a and do some teaching work, and also my research interest to community development, community capacity building, community economic development, and also we also now exploring some new approach like social innovation, something like that. So I'm very happy to see you all. So just want to keep in touch with uh, my international fans like you. So very good to see you. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much. And Sammy.
Hi, thank you. It's wonderful to be part of this call. This is my first actual meeting by meeting members of the group. I come from a background of community development practice. I think I did a certification in community development, and then followed by another certification in social enterprise. So I'm just bringing the two together and basically focused on promoting localization of aid and development through a process of community development. And I think over the past 15 years, I followed linear threads towards how we can sustain development and aid. But I think I have realized that I think communities are the ultimate anchors, and I think communities should be able to guide, direct, lead, and I think NGOs, the industry of NGOs should facilitate. So I'm on a mission, and as I searched, I came across IACD, and I it's like you can't avoid it. Like if you're talking about community development, you've gotta meet and talk about IACD. So I'm really excited to be part of this, and I'm really looking forward to the next conference. I was recently in UK for a assembly on localization and anticipatory humanitarian action. There I learned that I think the best way to really localize and decolonize aid is to revive community development, bring the process, and let it be the ultimate framework for how we think about solving our problems. Thanks.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And just out of curiosity, what was the event that you were at in England? Because I was at one last month, and I'm just wondering if we were in the same place and didn't actually connect.
Yeah, it's a Star Networks General Assembly. I think it was in Reading.
Okay. Oh no, I wasn't in Reading, so different event.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much, and it's wonderful to have you with us, and look forward to hearing more from you as well. Last but not least, Chris.
Yeah, hi everyone. I am Chris, also from Hong Kong Baptist University. I like similar to Chen. I graduated in HKBU and then got into the field of community development. Mainly work for people influenced by the government urban regeneration project in the past, and then start from I think 6 years before. After I finished my PhD, then I started to teach in HKBU on community development and management in human service organization. In the past few years, one of my interesting tasks or project is to promote a community development approach in the church community, the church, the local. Because I am a Christian, so I have some network with some churches, and then I involved in the project to try to use I think to integrate the idea about community development and also peace building, and then to practice in the church environment. So I think this something that I tried in the past few years, but at the same time, I still have research in local community development practice. Yes, thank you.
Thanks very much, Chris. And we've just been joined by Regini as well. So you're very welcome. I know you have literally just come in at the very end of our introductions, so you haven't had the opportunity to hear from everybody else, but we'd love to hear from you if you could maybe put your camera on and introduce yourself.
Hello.
Hello, good day.
Yeah, very happy to be in this meeting. I'm sorry I missed the introductions, but I'll get an update from Sonia on the who are all there. So no worries on that. And I'm based out of India. I work with Vritti, an organization which is focused on livelihoods of small producers. So we work across small and marginal farmers, fisher folk, MSMEs, women-owned businesses, and various other marginalized communities, largely on their livelihoods and their collectives.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And I've heard a lot about the organisation from Sonia and very much look forward to one day, hopefully, visiting and meeting everybody in person. Okay, so thank you all so much for taking the time to introduce yourselves. I know it's taken up nearly 30 minutes of the beginning of our session, but it is really worthwhile, especially since we are a relatively small group. And the best way for us to be able to connect is by hearing directly from each other about the work that we're involved in. So I do appreciate that, taking the time to do that. The purpose of today's session, apart from the opportunity to kind of come together and to network really, is to create that space for sharing what we're involved in, what some of the issues and the challenges might be for the work that we're involved in, and the communities that we're working with currently. So we're at the end of the year. It's a good time to reflect back on 2025. What have been some of those key challenges? What are some of the strengths and the opportunities that have emerged that we've been able to build on and capitalize on with the communities that we're all involved with? And this is a chance for us to share some of that knowledge, experience, ideas in terms of what has been over the last year, but it is also a good time for us on the basis of that reflection to think about what does 2026 hold for us as individual community development practitioners, and what does that mean for us in terms of connecting and being part of IACD, that international family as it has been described today, and how can IACD and our work support our members moving forward into 2026 as well. So some big themes, really, in many respects, but hopefully ones that connect and resonate, particularly given the time of the year that we're at. I suppose thinking about that, one of the first things that we wanted to do was actually to give you the opportunity to share and express a little bit about what some of those issues are, and we will sort of do that in a bit through the course of the session. But I am conscious that we do have a few people with us who might not be as familiar with IACD as everybody else in the room is. So it's also an opportunity for me in my role to tell you a little bit about IACD as well. So what I'm going to do is actually to screen share for a few slides, and then we'll stop doing that and have a bit more of a conversation. If you can just bear with me for 1 second while I pull up the slides. Okay, so I hope you can all see this. As I said, this is going to be familiar for some people, but maybe not as familiar for others. So for those of you who aren't as aware of IACD, it's the International Association for Community Development. We're a global multidisciplinary network for community development practitioners. So we have people who are very clearly focused on community development practice day in and day out, working with communities. We have other members who might be community development educators working in universities or maybe adult education colleges or large or small community organizations, NGOs, for whom community development practice might be a core area of the organization's work, or it might be a core area of a team's work in a broader organization, or it could be people who are working in other disciplines. And we've heard from our colleagues from Hong Kong Baptist University talking about social work practice, and community development work would be a core element of a lot of social work practice, depending on context and organizational priorities as well. So there are other disciplines where a community development approach would be utilized, maybe by teams or on a periodic basis or as part of that work. And I'm thinking here in terms of Northern Ireland, we would have what we call multidisciplinary teams that are working through often out of general practitioner clinics. And they will be health professionals from a variety of different sort of sub-disciplines: social work, childcare, maybe midwifery, possibly mental health teams that are supporting older people, children, adolescent mental health teams, and so on, health promotion. But as part of their roles, they might use a community development approach, and they might have social workers who have got more background and experience and training in community development as well. So that's just an example of, another allied social discipline where community development might be being used. And within our membership, we have that whole spectrum of people from other disciplines, as well as those directly, trained, qualified, and practicing in community development. We also have people from the likes of planning, regeneration, architecture, more perhaps adult education orientated, and then thematic areas of focus as well. So we have members who are specifically working around supporting women's empowerment or ending violence against women and girls, or people who are very active and focused around climate justice. And that's their remit, and perhaps their organizational remit as well. But in taking forward those themes, they're adopting community development practices and processes in their work. So it's a very broad family. And that's a very long way of talking about others with an interest in community development practice who are part of our membership. As an organisation, we have been going now in different formats for over 70 years. So IACD is a well-established organisation. We're registered as a charity in Scotland, but we work entirely remotely. We don't have an office base. But we are bound and joined together by our collective commitment as members to promoting participative democracy, sustainable development, human rights, economic opportunity in a fair, and socially productive way, equality and social justice. And we do that through the organisation, the education and the empowerment of people within their communities around the issues that they are concerned about and which affect them and where they want to see change. And whatever type of community that might be, whether it's a locality or geography, community of geography, very small, or it could be a city, right the way through to a road or a street or a village. It could be a community of identity, women, for example, or older people, or people from a particular minority background. So, for example, here in where I live in Northern Ireland, we have a significant Indigenous Irish traveller community, but they are a minority, a recognised minority. And a lot of community work practice would prioritise working with that community, and the Roma community as well. But also communities of interest. And that could be, for example, people who are coming together because they have a particular concern, and that might be climate justice, or it might be around culture, or the arts, or indeed, Chris, as you talked about, faith-based as well. And again, in rural and urban settings. So community development as a practice and as a process is something that we recognise can take place with different types of communities in any kind of setting. And it's important for us as an organisation to have that clarity around what we mean. We do also have a very clear view on how we define community development. And again, we'll look at that in a little minute. But what I wanted to do was to give you the opportunity now to share with everybody here what some of the key issues and challenges have been for you and your work over the last year. And I'm asking this question not because I or we as an organisation believe there's a hierarchy of issues. These issues that we work around day in and day out are all interconnected in many respects. Most of the time, it's hard to talk about poverty when you're not talking about housing, or you can't really talk about housing and the conditions of housing and not be talking about poverty. They're interconnected, and that's, it's an important thing for us to acknowledge. But we are working in different contexts with different communities, and in some communities, certain issues are going to be more prevalent at a point in time than the issues that other communities are concerned with. So it's useful to get a sense, really, of what some of these key issues are. And I'm really hoping that my little poll is going to work. So I'm going to stop screen sharing because I can't do that. I can't launch the poll while I'm screen sharing. So I'm going to stop screen sharing. But what I also have here is an online survey form, and that's a way for you to capture some of the things that we're talking about as well. So I'm just going to copy that because you can use this the whole way through the session and capture notes and ideas or things that you want to share. So I'm going to paste that in here. So you can open that and use that. And then I'm going to stop screen sharing and hopefully launch the poll, and you should be able to answer that question. Can you tell me if that's come up on your screen? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's up on the screen.
Okay, that's brilliant. So you have there some options, but there's also one that says other. So if you might be working around one or two of these issues with the communities that you're working with, but there could be something else. And if one of those key issues for you isn't reflected there, if you tick the other, and then we can have a bit of a chat about that. When everybody's filled it in, I'll launch it as the results so that you can see what the responses have been. So we're doing quite well. A few people have responded. We're nearly there now. It takes a bit of while reading through them all and then going, right, is it this one or is it that one? And
I have selected the ones which are nearest to it, although I don't find them exactly the context I'm working in, but I've tried to see which one is nearer to it.
Thank you very much, Regina. And you're absolutely right, because one of the other things that I'm always very conscious of is how we use language to describe the issues that we're working around in different parts of the world are different as well. So I'm just used to kind of Northern Ireland speak in some respects, and I'm sure each of you are in your own contexts. So we can have a little bit of a chat around that. So I can see that everybody has responded. Has everybody finished? Does anybody need more time? No? Okay, so I'll end the poll then, and we can have a quick look at the results. Okay, so can you see the results now? So one of the poverty and social exclusion, clearly a very big area of concern and work, as is gender-based violence and discrimination. That's yeah, joint first by the looks of it. And then access to affordable housing, environmental inequalities and climate, and access to education opportunities and other services. And then rise of authoritarianism as well, extremism and polarization. And what I will do in a few minutes is just kind of give you a sense of what the the balance of these issues looks like, for example, in one of our other regions when we did something similar, just by comparison. So keep those in mind. I'll stop sharing the results. And would anybody like to just reflect on that in terms of what's come out of that bit of the session? Were you surprised? Did you find that it looked like others were experiencing and working around the same sorts of issues as you were? I'm going to go back to screen sharing then, just for a few minutes. So, just to give you an idea then about some of the issues that were identified when we've done a similar activity in other regions. Political and economic instability, and again, talk about these, these are very much interconnected issues. The rise of the far right or authoritarianism, right-wing populism, right-wing politics, and nationalism. And I suppose nationalism in a sense that isn't, it isn't inclusive, as opposed to a sense of pride and so on. Austerity, poverty, and hardship. And again, when you have political sort of governments or regimes that are authoritarian and right-wing in their politics, often result in increased austerity and poverty for those at the lower end of the economic spectrum. So again, not surprising that they're interconnected, but also in terms of concerns around budgets and decisions about allocating resources. Nationally, people are witnessing and experiencing significant funding cuts for domestic sort of basic services, and then having to work with and support communities who are experiencing the impact of that. But also there was a strong recognition that aid budgets have been slashed as well. And we're talking globally here. So, we know politically where some of that is coming from, and then that shifts and influences other jurisdictions as well. And other countries follow suit. And that has a knock-on effect in terms of support for the other countries, perhaps on the non-OECD arena, or lower economic income countries. and those countries that are experiencing a lot of hardships, perhaps around conflict, violence, famine, and so on. So, what happens in one country, in one part of the world, in one jurisdiction, politically has a knock-on effect very directly in other parts. Across our regions, these issues were coming up, but they were being sort of looked at from different perspectives. Also, over the last year and before that, but increasingly issues and concerns around community and social tensions. And Chris, I think you talked a little bit about some of that in terms of, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but, peace building and those kinds of concerns. Increasing negativity around migration, certainly increasingly where in the part of the world that I live, and concerningly so. And that is leading to a lot of scapegoating and a lot of misinformation. And that's really, really problematic. And that fragments community cohesion. It's often community workers who are working really hard to build that cohesion. So it has a direct impact on community work practice, but obviously on communities as well. And also a bigger emphasis, and this goes back to the political ideologies too, around a focus on individualism, as opposed to collective concerns and a desire for positive collective outcomes. And again, in my part of the world here in Northern Europe, I can see that very clearly. The focus on individualism, and when that's sort of promulgated from a political perspective, it is often resulting in the sense of we are to blame for our own misfortunes, as opposed to it being the result of political decisions around budgets and so on, that increase poverty and hardship. So again, we can see how these things are interconnected, but that focus on individualism is often part of that ideology as well. If you pulled your socks up, as we would say here, you could pull yourself out of this situation that you find yourself in. And we know that that just isn't the case for communities, and significant sections of our society and our populations, because of multiple systemic disadvantage. And then one of the other things that came up that is part of the, linking in with this community and social tension was around issues of development, overdevelopment, and gentrification, which is also pushing people, people whose families have lived in areas traditionally for decades, many generations, pushing them out of certain areas. And ghettoizing a lot of people as well, and making areas just out of people's reach in terms of being able to live there, certainly from a housing point of view. And not what didn't come up for our area. This was principally Europe and one of the other regions, were the issues around transport, for example, and we know that those are issues, but these were the big things that people were really concerned about currently. And in terms of working environments for community development practitioners, precarious work environments in terms of job insecurity, whims linked to political programs. This is flavor of the year. So we're going to put all the money that we do have into this thing. We're going to call it something really pretentious. And everybody's got to try and fight for that pot of money, even though it doesn't really address the issues that people are experiencing. Short-term contracts from 1 year to the next, or maybe even less, which means people do feel very insecure in their roles. And that leads to a lot of stress and burnout. Systemically, over a period of time, that is not good for a field of practice or a sector. and that what happens is that people are saying, I'm being forced into crisis intervention work, which is feeding back into the notion of the individualism again as well, and not being able to focus on work with communities. I'm working in a community, but I'm having to work with individuals simply to try and help them get from one day to the next, one week to the next. But we're not doing anything that's going to change the overall situation, and go upstream to see why this is happening and try and change that. So people feel that sometimes things and actions then become tokenistic. So all of those were issues that came out in some of these other discussions in other regions. What would be really interesting is to get a sense from yourselves about what you identified in the poll, and do some of these things connect, or are there other things for you in your work, in the areas and the communities that you're working with, in the contexts that you're working in, that resonate or are different. So going to stop screen sharing for a little minute and just give you the opportunity to come in there if you have any reflections that you'd like to make.
Yeah. So Anna, if I may share.
Please do.
So a lot of points that you put on the slide, I think Ragini and Geeta will agree. We face very similar problems. And especially the kind of work that Ragini and I are engaged with, right? Whether it is the fish vendors or even the farmer communities. Like there is a lot of uh, stress that comes in caused due to gaps in funding. Like one of the first points that you put in. So like even our fish vendors project, when we finished the first phase, set up everything, and then there was a gap. And then to restart the work, and maybe Ragini, you want to share? Because what happens in community development if there is discontinuity,
Mhm.
right? They fear Ragini and my leaving them. That is so. I don't know if it happens across other countries, and maybe others can share. But they look towards us like anchors,
Mhm.
right? So, and honestly, we work across 5,000 women fish vendors, right? It's a big number. So, and it's a wide spectrum with somebody with a 500 rupees sale versus a 200,000 per day. That's how wide it is. So, a lot of challenges that you shared are very, very applicable, and I think we could all relate to it. So, yeah, and there are a couple more, but I think it just encompasses everything that we also face.
Mhm. Okay, thank you, Sonia.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with what Sonia says, especially when there is a picking up the momentum when there is a gap. It takes time. It is like it's not that you're starting from scratch, but rebuilding the efforts of the previous phase and connecting it with the current phase and taking it forward. So you lose precious time. And
Mhm.
all currently today, all funding is project based, and everybody wants change within that short period. Whereas numbers or figures, targets can be there, but what happens is, do you strengthen the collective, the communities, and reach the target, or you reach only the target? So it is sometimes what happens is you may reach the target, it's almost like operation successful but patient dead. So how do we make both successful,
Mhm.
operation successful and patient also well? So sometimes these funding cycles, funding timelines, all these also do not, earlier effort and time they gave for all this community mobilization and stabilizing is currently getting very squeezed in. So if you miss even one season or one part, what happens is it affects the entire outcomes. So the
Mhm.
seasonality of the kind of work, and added to it the climate change effects. All these sometimes create a huge gap between what we want to do and what we are actually able to achieve on ground.
Mm. Thank you both very much. That was quite a stark analogy to use, but actually sums up the nonsense situation that community workers find themselves in really at times, isn't it? We have these targets and we've met all the targets, but actually, well, hopefully nobody has died. But often what it means is, but nothing has changed. And we're still in the same situation, really. Yeah, I fully appreciate what you're describing there. Anybody else like to come in and reflect?
I would like to share. Actually, I would like to clarify. Anna did not put any words in my mouth. The words you mentioned already in my brain, actually. Those words I always mention: gentrification, oppression. In the past few years, when I worked in the peace project, actually, yeah, I think the increasing individualism, especially nowadays, the frequent use of social media, and then always the immigrants or some marginalized group in the society, and now as scapegoat. So that the interesting or sad issue is, I think in the community, even I go to the high school to share, the young people, the people in the community actually share a lot of false in the social media to treat the marginalized group as scapegoat. Even actually, they may be a part of the marginalized group, but they still shake that and then share the oppressive ideas. I think that that all problem is caused by particular groups. And then I find that interestingly, when the students, when the people, we go back to the community to try to make friends with others under some arrangement, small groups with some tasks and then some sharing, then people's ideas towards others will change. But and then it brings us another question: why they do not experience this when they are in their education, their daily life? Yeah, that's we reflect that in fact it is really influenced by the increasing individualized environment, because nowadays people do not need to contact with others. They just use the mobile phone, the cell phone to communicate, and then to immersion a lot, and then but no direct contact. After people have direct contact, then they can understand. They surely they have a lot of new ideas, and then we need to handle a lot of the tension between their ideas on others, and then we have reflection, and then we can change something. But the very challenging issue is it seems that at least in Hong Kong, I think the system, our education system, our community do not have some words to facilitate people to build relationship with others, so that increasingly isolated, and then share lots of negative ideas on towards others in the internet, and then a lot of I think tension and then oppression. Yeah, that's why I said Anna did not put any words in my mouth, but it already is something that I observed in the past few years. Yes.
Thank you, Chris. Anybody else like to just share anything? Sammy, I don't want to put you on the spot, but would be really interested to hear your reflections on the issues that have been identified in this discussion, and how that maybe connects with other parts of our membership, and your experience of working in Afghanistan.
Yes, I'll try to bring that Afghan context and apply these issues, and I'll try to do my best to not confuse it, because Afghanistan offers a very different landscape. Like whatever you think, like people think now about community development and how it it works. Afghanistan challenges everything. Well, I think it's not just these issues. I think these issues are the product of a systemic failure, of professionalization of the role of community, and then commercialization of that role in the form of professional NGOs turning what communities are supposed to be doing. They bring in, disrupt those community-led processes, and then they withdraw because they're driven by budget cycles and very unpredictable funding sources. And that disruption creates dependency. And I think poverty, even the most resilient communities, if you come in and disrupt their processes, they're going to depend on the professional NGOs to do that. Mm-hmm. And I think I can say this from like 15 years of trillions going into aid and fixing something that we destroy with the right hand and then try to fix it with the left hand. That's what the world has been doing to the communities. That's what the sector has been doing to the communities. And I think the reason I'm saying approaching this from a broad perspective is that these are just the events, the systemic failures that drive these events. I've been experiencing them, watching them, seeing them, interacting with them, and trying to understand them for a decade. And I think just reviving and trying to activate, the community's ability to work together for their well-being. I mean, the current aid system is just not built to fix poverty. It's built sometimes. I know they have like pretty reports and a lot of statistics and good lobbying skills to prove that, they're coming in to save communities. But what they're actually doing is keeping the industry alive and justifying their existence as coming in and saving communities. And I can say this from like what the Irish communities, the role they played in community development. The same goes on, like if you go to if you watch UK and that role, like what they do in building a society. And I think community wealth, community well-being, it can be professionalized. It has to be something that should come back and be led for communities. So, I'm just not engaging with these issues that was listed here, because these are all result of a very deep problem, which I hope, I think that's like, it's becoming my life mission to bring that community process back into shaping the system instead of the system imposing. And then, ultimately, I think it's always the communities that came back and put the pieces together when the system fails. Like, can you imagine the NGOs coming in, feeding 50 million people? Like, how do you come in and then just ignore the strengths that are within the community instead of building on existing traditions and strengths? They come in with templates and solutions in a box and just write pretty reports. And I know, and I think I was like, for a better part of 2 or 3 years, I was part of the system. And then I was following it. I was becoming part of it. But then suddenly I had this different experience by seeing it through the lens of communities. And the amount of harm that the current aid and development industry does to communities is just horrific if you look at the scale and the ramification for the future. Like, if you deny the communities the ability for them to recognize their strengths and assets, work together, take collective action, you're weakening and disabling communities by denying them their role to play in fixing and building their wealth and strength and holding their governments accountable. Like, if you weaken communities like that, you give them, you give the governments, the authorities, the ability to suppress divide and basically, weaken the communities and then impose whatever systems they want. So I think that is worth focusing. And then also, I think the results will just fall in line if you fix the system.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I fully endorse what you've just outlined there. I think there is a vast industry that is like a rolling, I don't know, train or whatever, some kind of mammoth thing that rolls in and rolls out, and has a huge amount of money behind it. But as you've very rightly outlined there, rolls out often very quickly and doesn't address the core issues, the systemic issues that are underpinning what people are experiencing, to varying degrees of hardship at any point in time. And sometimes those are absolutely acute and life-threatening situations. And that isn't community development, is what I would say in relation to that. One of the things that we struggle with here, and I appreciate, whether it's South Asia, East Asia, Pune, Hong Kong, Afghanistan, Kenya, we are all in different contexts. But I think if we looked at trying to describe some of the structural things that we see, there would be a lot of similarities, although how they're experienced in different parts of the world are very different. And one of the things that we experience and see quite clearly here is that when we talk about community development, those of us who are community development workers, it's often used to talk about a whole range of other types of interventions that are not what we describe and understand as being community development. And so some of that individualism, the intervention, the fly in, do a 6-week project, fly out again, they're attractive often to funders, but they don't actually make any difference in communities. And there's that constant tension for those of us who are community development practitioners, with all of those other structural mechanisms that can come into play at any point in time through our government departments or whoever it might be. And so we don't see change. Communities that we work with don't see change. We have food banks. We have more food banks now than we've ever had before, I think possibly since World War II. And we're supposedly one of the wealthiest, countries in the world. So we're constantly fighting against clear structural and ideological, sort of frameworks, and trying to change things with communities. And the only way that that can happen is that longer term process of working that builds on community strengths, builds on that, you use the term traditions, local traditions, that knowledge, and also supports people to work collaboratively together. And I think that's one of the big challenges. Because, sorry, one of my dogs is wanting out of the room. That's one of the ideological things that we're having to fight against as well. Individualizing versus the collective. And the only way real positive change does come about is when people are working together. So actually part of our role is about just constantly keeping that message alive. And I think we've seen that more, again, reflecting on my experience over the last year, in terms of movements than necessarily work in specific geographical communities. And one of those has been around the ending violence against women and girls. the gender-based violence, that's been a widespread growth around that issue, those issues, in a movement-orientated manner, which is having more traction and more influence than simply trying to work at a very localized level, supporting individual women, which is also really important. But it is that the bigger stage stuff, and listening to women and what women want and what women need, and those women being part of that process and recognizing that people aren't all victims, they are human beings with their own lives, their own experiences, and their own strengths to bring to bear in all of that as well. And a lot of clear ability to influence themselves, but not on an individual basis. It's that collectivity for collective outcomes that really, really matter. So part of it for us is about finding the wherewithal just to keep with it, and keep supporting communities and ride that kind of the ups and downs of the challenges, the burnouts, the insecurities around that, because that is what community development is about. And I'm kind of conscious that we've talked quite a bit about some of the challenges. And as we come towards the latter part of this session, it would be really interesting just to give some thought to 2026 and what some of the key, not just the key issues, because what's an issue today is still an issue tomorrow, or what's an issue on the 31st of December is still an issue on the 1st of January. But in your kind of horizons for your work, what are some of the things that you're going to be focusing on that and what does that look like? I think, in terms of your work, what does that work look like for you at the moment, and in the foreseeable year ahead? And how can we, as an organisation, IACD, support you in that work, in terms of connecting with what we do? And broadly speaking, I mean, just to sort of, for anyone who might not be as familiar with our role and purpose, our current purpose is about advocating for the discipline, the values, and the methods of community development, championing community participation and empowerment and solidarity and agency. And that very much, for me, is about that collective, seeking collective change for communities and positive collective outcomes, so that benefit not just individuals, but everybody, particularly those who are the most marginalized, the most disadvantaged in our society or societies. So our first priority area is around promoting and advocating for the discipline, the values, and the methods of community development. It is a way of working that can bring about positive social change. And where that's needed, community development has a very strong role to play. And also our second priority area is around supporting and engaging with our members and with others who are involved in this work to promote the networking and practice exchange. So like this, coming together to share issues, concerns, but also approaches, methods, ways of working, different approaches, emerging ideas, and sharing that so that we can all learn from each other's practice. So bearing that in mind, in terms of the coming year, these are some of the things that IACD is going to be focusing on. But they're quite output orientated. I'm more interested in hearing from you at this point in time, and I'm sure Daniel and Shirley and Sonia, as our trustees, are interested to hear about what you feel we can do to align these outputs with the issues and the work that you're involved in, and how you want to be able to connect with other practitioners around the world. And where there are areas of advocacy, perhaps, and we do engage with the UN, and that's an area that we want to grow and develop. What is the messaging from you as our members that you feel is important there? What is it that we should be focusing on? And in terms of communities of practice, that's another area that we're strengthening and developing. And what are some of those communities of practice, around that you would really value or want to be part of? Is it around just regional focus? Is it around a focus with other people in other parts of the world who are working around specific themes? This is an opportunity for us to ensure that our work next year aligns with and addresses what our members are really concerned with. So interested to hear about that from you. And again, just sort of given the time that we have now, and we are a relatively small number in group, throw that open to you for a little bit of coming back. Or you might have some questions about some of these points on this slide as well. I'm very happy to take those too. So those are the things that, broadly speaking, we will be focused around delivering. But what they focus on really is what I'd love to hear, and we would love to hear from you. And I have to say, I think this has been an incredibly rich conversation today, really valuable and informative and insightful. And I hope it's a start of conversations that we can take forward as well. So in terms of 2026, what does your community development work hold for you? And how do you feel IACD could connect with that and bring something else to support it?
I think, sorry, KK, you first.
No, it's okay.
Shirley,
Right.
go on ahead.
No, I just want to point out that actually in the Hong Kong context, like in many other places, social services or community services are becoming more and more dominated by individualism, by ideas of individual work. Rather than working with the collective or with the community. So I think among all these upcoming activities, they are all very important and meaningful. But I would pick up the one on promoting CD as a discipline. It's becoming even more and more difficult because actually among even in social work education in Hong Kong, I think Hong Kong Baptist University, I must say that we're very proud that we still have courses on community development in social work curriculum. So we still insist on teaching community development as a discipline. There are theories, there are methods, there are processes, and there are different approaches of practices. And so on. So from the perspective of a teacher in university, I think I would insist on promoting CD as a discipline. Even those the social work students, when they graduate, they may not take up jobs related to community development, but I still very much want them to embrace the perspective. No matter what they are going to do in the social service context, they have to always remember that the community is to be developed, and we have to work with the collective, not only individuals or families. So so I would like to pick up this agenda. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. KK?
Yeah. I, just want to make 2 points. The first is, the issues identified in different regions. I noticed that we frankly we also share most of the issues identified. Uh, uh, Interestingly, of course, I echo Sammy's observation. It's something to do with the systems. And to me, it's the development of capitalism. I mean, up to the present stage, but it's not time for that sort of discussion, even though it is a very critical. But to me, I see. I mean, all those identified issues are so critical. We could I think ICT could really, focus on these various themes and find ways to say publication and also as themes for the practice insight and even themes for the WCDC for the coming year. And so I echo, the significance of all those issues and place them as the themes to be worked on by IACD. And the other point I want to make is I echo Shelley's observations about the kind of marginalization of community development in the context of Hong Kong. So if we can have that kind of uh, active promotion, active support from international organizations, then I think it would help. It would be helpful for community development workers in this part of the world. And actually, then the third point. uh, one observation, but I just point out the observation, but without any further comment, is notice that rise of the far right wing populism and nationalism has been identified as the top issues on the list. But interestingly, in at least for this present session, not only Hong Kong, but we also have our South Asian colleagues, joining. We also not identifying this theme as top on the list.
Right.
That I mean, it's a kind of interesting phenomenon. Uh, I remember actually friends in Melbourne, Professor Sue Kenny. She's actually actively inviting me and the other colleagues to join a book on the far right wing populism because we see all those happens in Australia, in the UK, and in the US particularly. But what I find it interesting is I have to put it this way, Hong Kong, no, but in the past, yes, and Singapore, no, China, interestingly, no. So this theme, it's a very interesting a phenomenon that we need to really pay attention to, even though in this part of the world, the interesting phenomenon is we didn't identify it as a critical issue. So, I mean, it has something to do with, the change of the systems, the kind of maybe, I mean, institutional change, political change, things like that. So, no, just echo, a kind of, phenomenons which happens everywhere and has something to do with the development of capitalism, but interestingly, not in this part of the world. But this part of the world, the political systems, interestingly, I have to put it this way, it's a kind of very contradictory phenomenons, but I don't want to spend much time on that. I just want to say it's also could be, even though it's not top on the list here, but it may be even more critical to really to spend time to explore these issues as well here, even though it's not part of the list.
Okay, thank you very much, KK and Shirley. Sonia, I'm conscious that you did put a little message into the chat to say you and
No,
Regina
thanks.
needed to go.
Yeah.
Would you like to
We
give
have
a
another
final
review meeting coming up at 3. So, Ragini, you wanna say something?
I think she's gone.
Okay, yeah, because we really need to rush. No, this was great because I think got together more people, right? And like I was telling you, the more we have member engagement, we'll be able to move forward. So I think that's where it stems from. So thank you so much. Yeah,
Okay.
and hope to catch up with you soon in the next year.
That's not far away, so the answer to that's
Exactly. Yeah.
See you, Sonia.
Okay.
So Sonia,
Thank you so much. Yeah. Bye-bye. Bye.
Sonia,
Bye-bye.
before you
Yeah.
go,
Bye. See
Yeah.
you.
Bye. Bye. See
yes.
you.
hi Sonia.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay,
We'll
wonderful.
follow up, and
So,
thanks so much for creating time.
Always a
We'll,
pleasure. Yeah.
we'll look
Okay.
forward to
Bye-bye.
having this kind of forums a lot more often. Yeah, okay.
yeah, so I mean, we are at the 90-minute mark now, so it probably is getting to the point where we do need to wrap up. So we'll just take any final comments and then we'll close and hopefully reconvene in the new year. Sammy.
Yeah, thanks. I was just trying to gather my thoughts and the feedback you requested. I think we're working on a backdrop of a international aid and development systems failing. I think the NGO industry is giving space to other new approaches to how we can sustain. And I think communities are coming back because they're always the safety net when the systems collapses, and the communities have to come together, and because they're the real stakeholders, they have this intrinsic motivation to act because it's they are at stake. So I think on the backdrop of a failing aid system, we as a community development organization are trying to focus on what we can do, what concept, what methods, what ideas we could bring to improve outcome for the people instead of for our organizations. Instead of creating organizations and networks, we try to create a movement that serves the outcomes for the people. And for that, I think we have come to focus on creating a regenerative community wealth focused on collective well-being. And also to create that regenerative capacity is to bring back the idea of community-owned enterprises. Like, how can we bring back that tradition that we lost to really, like, and how do we bring that community business or community enterprise as a generator of resources for the work that we want to do on improving outcomes for the people, rather than waiting for some random, unpredictable source to decide whether they want to fund a process or not. So that independence from the broader system through social enterprise is what we're going to focus on the year 2026, maybe even all the way. So to do that, I think the strategy is to integrate the education of community development with the right certification and community service, because we have to combine if we want to draw a portrait of our graduates, what is it that they will be at the end of what we would try to do with? Like volunteerism without context, without the right incentive structures is going to just unravel. So what we're trying to do is develop an integrative degree that combines community development with the idea of business or social enterprise. To do that, what we're trying to do is each person who comes, and the degree that we try to design will be around how could individuals who are mission driven identify and basically say community problems are community businesses. Like that is going to be the motto. It's like if you see a problem, can you design a business around it to fix it? And I think that's going to be at the heart of this integrated course. It's not only going to be a good certificate, but also a very integrative, strong community practitioner combined with a really mission-driven entrepreneur who is both capable of generating resources, but also using these resources to fix and build community wealth and collective well-being. And I think that's what's going to be the guiding post for us moving into the future, hopefully.
Thank you very much, Sammy. And that's really interesting. Quite a significant challenge that you've set yourselves, but also one that is very much emerging out of the discussions that you've reflected here today in terms of the issues within the communities that you're working with, and how those issues are experienced, and also wanting to build on local traditions as well. And it'd be absolutely fascinating to hear how that progresses. So I really hope that you will keep us informed and share some of that story. And I don't know if this is possible for you, but if you were able to join us at the World Community Development Conference next year, that would be a wonderful opportunity to share that, but also for others to hear about the work that you're doing, and maybe support you in other ways as well. We do have a number of educators who are delivering community development degree programs. Specifically community development degree programs like Daniel and others on our board, and also Shirley and KK, who have talked about the integration of community development within their degree programs as well. But also the practice base of that, I think, is something that is really interesting to look at and hear about too. So I am really conscious of the time. Chris, Yu-chung, is there anything you would like to say by way of final reflections, and then we'll draw the session to a close?
Stress.
Yes, I really appreciate the sharing, and what Shirley shared especially make me remember is about the collective. I think nowadays in Hong Kong, we recent years we have government start to launch some community health project. So in that kind of project, community is treating as a variable, as something that can solve all the problems. But in that kind of community project, it does not mention about collective. So I think in a increasing individualized society, I think community as collective, a crucial part of our living, I think is very important. So this a reflection that after I listen to all the sharing, then suddenly bring up.
Yeah. For me, maybe two things I would like to share. One thing is actually I'm now working in a woman entrepreneurship development project. I find it very challenging to work against the individualism, especially promoting the economic justice, something like that. So I just adopt the concepts of entrepreneurship development from abroad, from international, and then apply into the project and try to do something for the gender issue and also the woman poverty issue. So I would like to learn more about the experience from different parts of the world about the community economic development practice. So this is the things I would like to look forward in the 2036. And also the second things I would like to share is I really appreciate this kind of regional meeting. So I hopefully in the next year we can have more opportunity to meet regional fans in South Asian, uh, particularly. Yeah. So I really appreciate this opportunity to share. Okay, and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you both very much. And yes, I genuinely meant what I said when I did refer to this as being a really informative and insightful session with really thought-provoking contributions that get to the heart of the issues that we're working around, really. What I really appreciated about this one was the fact that it was two of our global regions that were coming together. We tried to do this, I suppose, from a pragmatic point of view, simply to create the opportunity for some networking and sharing, but without having every single region, only meeting with people from their own region. So we sort of thought maybe bringing a couple together might be useful. But I think the cross fertilization of experience and knowledge has been really what has brought quite a lot of that insight to this one. And if you're happy, we could perhaps, continue in that vein. Doesn't have to be written in stone, but maybe trying to follow up with something, bringing both regions together in the first part of next year might be a good way to progress. I'm getting the
just an idea before we end the
yes.
section. I'm thinking that maybe if we can invite the regional members to join a sharing section, for example, in a more personal manner, like we're sending each of them email, inviting them to join a section. So that they may think that is more relevant to them. Because sometimes I just wonder, because when people receive email from IACD, they would think, oh, it's something very big. It's something very serious. So I'm just wondering if we can, through Jessica, perhaps, to get a list of members in East Asia, or for example, to start with. I think we can together try to reach out to those members that they are not here today, but I guess they may be interested in listening to what you have shared with us today. I think the information on those agenda items, I think issues are really important because I really learn a lot when you present to us the findings, sort of findings of the survey on issues. So I think we can try to organize another event through a more personal invitation in the near future. Yeah.
That's a brilliant idea, Shirley, and thank you for suggesting it, because I do think people who are within the region, our trustees locally, have a greater, more likely to be familiar with some of the other members, or at least they may be familiar with who the trustees are more than a name. And even from Jessica's point of view, her email is membership@, so it's not even an email that's coming from somebody's name. And these things that, they sound sometimes like they're quite small, but they are all very much about that personal approach, and I think that makes a big difference. So yes, okay. What I'm hearing as we draw to a close is it's been a good, productive meeting.
Yeah.
We've enjoyed it. We've found it informative and good sharing, insights. Yes, to progressing sooner rather than later with a follow-up, and the better option for broadening that out to others within both regions would be if we work on framing the invitation and then share that in draft with yourself, Shirley, and with Sonia, and perhaps even with others who are here today, who might have other links and contacts that invite could be forwarded on to. Is that a way forward?
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay,
Brilliant.
that's great. I've put my email address in there. Sammy, thank you for asking and for sharing yours. I'm very happy to follow up individually with anyone. If there's anything else that crops up that you think, oh, this might be of interest. We have an e-bulletin coming out probably towards the end of this week. If there's anything that you have that you'd like to share and put into it, we'd be very happy to receive it. And we will follow up with a date, couple of date options to bring people back together again in the first quarter of next year. Wonderful. Thank you all so much. I did put an evaluation link in there as well in the chat, just in case you didn't see that, but I'll follow up with an email as well because a couple of people have already left. And Daniel, if you would like to bring us to a close.
Okay, thank you, Anna, for guiding us through, and thanks, colleagues, for this quite interactive session, being able to reflect where we have been and highlighting issues that are of importance in your practice, and also issues that IACD can also come in and support. And what is coming through, of course, is that we are facing more or less similar issues, and we can form a common front in terms of promoting the discipline, protecting the discipline, and also claiming some of the spaces so that then we can be able to become a lot more impactful and also help our communities become or benefit from this process. In terms of going forward, this is a process would wish to be repeated a lot more often so that then we have a lot more impact at the regional level and I can address the unique issues that arise and that are best addressed at regional level. The challenge to us, of course, then is to come out and be a lot more supportive. And in terms of what Shelley you've indicated, in terms of being able then to create a lot more impact and momentum in your university, so that then there can be a lot more visibility for the discipline. And again, what is some you're indicating, development to a large extent as a project has failed, and communities have always been left with the end of the stick to make things happen. And this is what, again, as an organization, we are trying to do. For Shelley and I think Sonia, Jessica has been sharing the list of members in our shared drive. And so I think we'll put a lot more emphasis in terms of making that more accessible to us as trustees, so that then we can be able to see who are the members and then we can be able to reach them out a lot more easily and mobilize them to be able then to rally together and then also make their membership more beneficial when now they are engaged in some of these processes. And so in the interest of time, we'll say that we'll bring this to a close, but then in the next quarter also, we'll try to have a repeat session then for the region with all the members. And then we will also be reaching out now to the trustees at regional level then to have a lot more detailed dialogue on how to progress the process. So thank you so much. And as we get to the festive season, all the best and enjoy the season and the benefits that come with the season.
And a very happy new year to everybody.
Oh,
Happy
yes.
New Year.
Thank you.
Merry
Merry
All the
Christmas.
best. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.